AEW needed this. They really needed this. It's been over a month since AEW put on All In at Wembley Stadium, and since then, it seems like AEW has been fighting an uphill battle when it came to perception amongst the wrestling fanbase. Was All In just a fluke? Has the company lost its way? The firing of CM Punk and the departure of Jade Cargill to WWE left a lot of people asking questions of AEW. Frankly, it was time for the promotion to fight back, and to remind everyone of why they were a commercial and critical success right out of the gate. And when I say fight back, I'm not even talking about big signings. I mean, it was time for AEW to return to its roots of being an alternative wrestling promotion that offers a different philosophy compared to the industry leader. Remind us all of why we fell in love with the promotion back in 2019. The blend of great characters and great stories, having the very best of the best in-ring matches is what made AEW AEW. I myself have been critical of the promotion as of late, but the criticism was constructive, because at the end of the day, this is still my favorite wrestling promotion in the world, and I want to see them succeed and reach the heights that I know they're capable of reaching. And that's what the company always said they were going to do. They said they would listen. Which is why it meant something when Tony Khan personally reached out to me for a brief private conversation about my concerns with AEW. Frankly, the man gave me hope. He genuinely cares about what his audience thinks. Now more than ever, AEW needed a huge win to remind everyone who they are. WrestleDream in particular had a good build, and that was mostly due to the fact that the pay-per-view was happening immediately after All Out. Tony Khan had no choice but to lock himself in and build these feuds and programs within a short time frame, and I'll talk more about that later. To say I was hyped for WrestleDream before the show began would be an understatement. There was a feeling of magic in the air, a feeling that we were about to witness something special. And when the show was over, all I could think was, thank God for AEW. If you put on a tribute show for New Japan founder Antonio Inoki under the WrestleDream banner, you have to make sure it's good. Tony Khan loaded up the show with big names in order to assure us of this. Remember my video on conservative booking last month? That video blew up, but I'm glad that it did because I wanted AEW to listen. Since that video dropped, I've noticed some huge interactions. For example, Jay White, a former IWGP Heavyweight Champion who should absolutely be treated like a star, has crossed paths with both Andrade and now MJF. That's not to say I'm taking credit for the booking after my video dropped, but I do want to give credit where credit is due. This show featured 3 big singles matches that all could have realistically main evented the pay-per-view. My most anticipated matches were Danielson vs Sabre Jr., Christian vs Darby, and Swerve vs Hangman. Funnily enough, each of those matches featured a hometown hero, which only added to the big fight feel. And while every single one of these matches delivered compared to the hype for them, I need to give credit to the rest of the performers on this card who all seemed like they had a chip on their shoulder and a point to prove. Before I get into that though, I do want to say once again that this show benefited greatly from actually having a proper build. While All Out in Chicago was a very good show this year, there was hardly any build, and therefore I personally wouldn't put it in my top 3 shows this year. WrestleDream, however, had both the build and the card to stand against any of the other show of the year contenders. You see, there's been a report that AEW will be expanding its pay-per-view schedule in 2024, with the rumored number being 12 pay-per-views a year on streaming service Max. And in my opinion, this will only improve the product. More pay-per-views means less downtime in between, which would mean keeping the show focused. More pay-per-views means more big matches and in theory, less conservative booking. I think we began to see this with the build to WrestleDream. Hell, even before WrestleDream, AEW began the build for the main event for the next pay-per-view Full Gear in Jay White vs MJF. The show overall feels a lot more focused due to the faster turnaround time on pay-per-views, which gives me hope about AEW keeping the momentum going after one of their critically acclaimed pay-per-views like WrestleDream. Instead of waiting 4 months for the next major show, we're now immediately building towards Full Gear after such a great show, which keeps the audience on its toes. I think it was crucial for me to mention this as a reason as to why WrestleDream felt so refreshing and well built, because while many people are against more pay-per-views, I'm of the belief that it'll only make AEW stronger. MJF starting off the show was fitting in my opinion since he's now leading the charge as the face of the company, and a damn good one at that. The mystery of who attacked Jay White continues while Adam Cole is out and MJF tries to hang on to the ROH tag titles until he comes back. Jay White vs MJF feels like the only time outside of All In where MJF has a legitimate chance of losing the world title, which is the beauty of these types of big feuds, which I was demanding only a month ago. Then we had Eddie Kingston vs Katsuyori Shibata for the ROH world title and the strong openweight title. Seeing Shibata wrestling on a regular basis in AEW of all places will never not be surreal. People who aren't aware of the legend of Shibata and his comeback from a life-threatening injury will never understand the joy I get when I see him wrestle. Eddie Kingston, on the other hand, is the ultimate babyface for a promotion like AEW. He was never supposed to make it in this business, but he did it, and now he's here to stay, just like AEW itself. This was a proper match for an Antonio Inoki tribute show, and it's yet another instance where Kingston is getting to live out his dreams. A good match on the right show. We then had Chris Statlander defending her TBS title against House of Black's Julia Hart. Statlander is obviously in the S tier of the AEW women's division, but credit must be given to Julia Hart, who is improving at a rapid rate. It's obvious that Julia is going to be a major player for AEW so long as she stays with the promotion. Therefore, a loss to Statlander won't hurt her. My question is, who does Stat face next? The 4-way tag came next, and this is the only match where I would have gone for a different winner, but that's just me being picky. Nothing against the Bucks, I just wanted FTR to face someone new for this reign. It's obvious that the Bucks will be the ones to dethrone FTR at this point, which I'm fine with. I just hope that the Bucks take their characters in a new direction soon enough, which isn't even a Bucks problem, but more a tag team problem in AEW. All these tag teams feel the same as they did on day one. The matches are great, I just want more character development from the tag division. But next, we had what felt like a pay-per-view main event. Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page. To say Swerve had home field advantage would be underselling how massively behind him his city was. Page was getting Hangman sucks and FU cowboy chants, a first in AEW history. The entire time I was hoping that the right person would win because it would be a star-making moment. And AEW did the right thing by having Swerve defeat former world champion Hangman. The Swerve push is in full effect, and this moment will be remembered as the night his ascension to the top truly began. Once again, a case where WWE's loss is a gain for the rest of the wrestling world. Spoiler, Swerve will be AEW World Champion sooner rather than later. Ricky Starks and Wheeler Yuta had the unfortunate task of following the prior match, and they did a good job. Moxley on commentary made this a fun one, and it also telegraphed that we'll be getting Ricky versus Moxley soon. Anyway, this match served its purpose as a cooldown. After this, we had the big dream match between Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. to finally determine who the best technical wrestler in the world truly is. This was a masterclass in professional wrestling. This is why we need an AEW, because without them, we wouldn't be able to get this match in America on a mainstream level. This was for Inoki, for New Japan, for AEW, for all of pro wrestling. I can already imagine that indie wrestlers will be trying to recreate this everywhere, but they won't be able to because none are as good as these two. The holds, the sequences, the pacing. What more can I say besides, I don't want Danielson to fully retire just yet. Here's hoping he only goes part-time in 2024 and we continue to get these kinds of dream matches from him. A legit match of the year contender that featured very little high-risk moves. But speaking of high risk, we got the trios match between the Golden Lovers and Jericho versus the Don Callis family. Everyone did their job well here, and I mostly have to say that I can't wait for Ospreay to be all elite next year. Adding Will Ospreay to this roster would just be unfair at this point from Tony Khan. Also, I really hope Kenny Omega can have some big singles matches soon. This man is one of the best wrestlers alive, and I just want to see him spotlighted in a way that maximizes his aura. But I also understand that he loves doing these tag and trio matches. This match really ended up burning the crowd out for the tag title match that followed. Poor FTR and Aussie Open were fighting for their lives trying to revive the crowd, and to their credit, they kinda did at the end. This match was actually pretty good, but a tired crowd makes all the difference in the world. As mentioned earlier, we're now likely headed towards FTR vs Young Bucks 4. And then the main event. TNT champion Christian Cage, who's on the run of a lifetime, defending his title in a 2 out of 3 falls match against hometown boy Darby Allin. This match was brutal but excellent. The TNT title went from being a nothing title for most of last year and this year to now being rehabbed on the shoulder of Christian Cage to the point where it was worthy of main eventing a pay-per-view. There was drama and stakes with Christian damn near trying to kill Darby. Personally, this might be one of my favorite AEW pay-per-view main events ever. Christian proving his worth as a true main event level talent once more against one of the fastest rising stars in AEW, Darby Allin, made for compelling TV. And of course, when we got the brutal ending with the ring all torn up with Christian Cage retaining, it set us up for the beautiful grand finale. Heading into this, we all knew there was a possibility of Edge, one of the most beloved and popular WWE stars of all time, showing up. It would also make sense considering the connection with Christian, his best friend since childhood. Even then, it seemed inconceivable that a guy who had been with WWE since 1998 would actually jump ship. But it happened, and it was executed perfectly. Adam Copeland coming out to help Darby and Sting from Christian Luchasaurus and now a heel Nick Wayne was a fantastic finish that exceeded expectations, even when we were all expecting Copeland's arrival. The fact that he brought his iconic Alter Bridge theme with him while also having the Rated R Superstar moniker was even crazier. I said it immediately after it happened, but seeing him in the ring with Darby and Sting legit felt like the Wrestleverse had been broken. Christian was always the one who felt like he had to leave WWE because he was underutilized. But Edge? He's a multi-time world champion who is often considered John Cena's greatest rival, John Cena, the face of WWE's last era. He had it all with WWE. His arrival in AEW is a moment that AEW needed for one reason: perception. It had been a long time since a legit main event star from WWE had made the jump by choice. People were starting to think that because WWE had all the momentum from the summer of 2022 and onwards, that no one would ever choose AEW again. But they were wrong. Adam Copeland chose AEW because, in his own words, he and WWE outgrew each other. He wanted to do something different while giving back to pro wrestling, and his best choice was to do that in AEW. The genuine excitement from Adam during the media scrum was also very reassuring. Along the way, people forgot that AEW is a legit alternative to WWE who could pull these main event level talents. And sure, money plays a part, but it's also because AEW is pro wrestling. A lot of people growing up now obviously don't know what it's like to have two legit companies who have talent going back and forth. Too many people grew up with WWE being the only game in town, which is why they feel betrayed that Adam Copeland joined AEW. But here's the thing, so long as there's two companies who can offer competitive levels of pay, this will remain constant. Get used to the idea of your favorite wrestler jumping ship. It happened to me with Cody, and now possibly CM Punk. But that's okay. Wrestling needs an AEW. Otherwise, WWE signing Jade Cargill wouldn't have been nearly as big as it was. If rumors are to be believed, 2024 will be a huge year for wrestlers moving between companies, so you might as well accept the fact that no one is a lifer anymore. AEW made a statement with the Adam Copeland signing. They're adding a legit mainstream main eventer to their already stacked roster. A great show from top to bottom, capped off by a massive debut. It's almost like Double or Nothing 2019 or All Out 2021. These are the moments that remind me why I love professional wrestling. And I'm just crazy enough to believe that Full Gear will be an even better show. So if WrestleDream taught us anything, is don't doubt the unpredictability of pro wrestling and never bet against AEW.